It just went all quiet. That's it. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Welcome, bonjour. I'm Tony Valeri, member of the Decarbonization Investment Project team here at ArcelorMittal Dofasco, and I'm very pleased to kick off today's event. But I would first want to welcome and acknowledge our guests from the Government of Canada. Je souhaitais le bienvenue à nos invités du gouvernement du Canada et souligner leur présence. Please welcome the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, the Honourable François-Philippe Champagne, Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry, the Honourable Filomena Tassi, Minister responsible for Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, Lisa Hefner, Member of Parliament for Hamilton Mountain, Chad Collins, Member of Parliament for Hamilton East Stony Creek, Member of Provincial Parliament, Donna Skelly, MPP for Flamborough, Glanbrook, and Deputy Speaker of the Ontario Legislature, and the City of Hamilton Mayor, Fred Eisenberger, welcome, is joining us today. ArcelorMittal's Executive Chairman, Mr. Lakshmi Mittal, ArcelorMittal Dofasco President and CEO, Ron Bedard. A warm welcome to our colleagues and guests, please. So along with that, I'd also like to welcome those that are attending virtually. This is being direct live, so folks have tuned in as well, so welcome to you. To begin today's ceremony, we wish to acknowledge the lands on which we operate. Today, the City of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Trudeau Island. We acknowledge that ArcelorMittal Dofasco lands are situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. ArcelorMittal Dofasco recognizes that we must do more to learn about this rich history of these lands so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. Wow. A little more than a year ago, we gathered in this spot to announce our intention to embark on an extraordinary project to transform the way we make steel. Today, we reconvene to celebrate our achievements to date and to mark the next phase of the project. This spot is, as you can see, close to our manufacturing operations. For those that have not been here before, directly behind me is our hot roll gantry yard. The coils that you see have been rolled from our steel slab. In the distance behind me and just to your right is our steelmaking business unit, with our electric arc furnace in front and the basic oxygen furnace in behind. And also behind me and to your left is our hot mill. More than 4 million tons of steel slabs arrive at the hot mill to be rolled into coils that are either shipped as hot roll or further finished as coated for our customers according to their specific application of steel. Soon, this will be a much different landscape. Which brings us to today's event and our speakers. So first, I'd like to hand it over to ArcelorMittal Dofasco's President and CEO, Ron Bedard, to begin to narrate for you a bit of that change. Ron?
Well, thank you so much, Tony, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll just take a few minutes before passing the spotlight over to our chairman, Mr. Mittal. My message today really is one about people and thank you. And certainly the people in Orange, the 4,650 people that I get to work with every day, I want to honor them today. They make Dofasco and ArcelorMittal great. I'm beyond proud to be here to represent and to work for them every day, people who design, manufacture, and deliver smarter steels for people and planet. And on behalf of them, I also want to extend a warm welcome and thanks to our guests that have joined us today. I feel a great sense of responsibility and pride standing here at the podium. That's because of the foundation of the project that we're here to celebrate can be found in contributions of more than 50,000 proud, hard-working Dofasco employees that have made for over many decades and continue to make today. 11 decades to be exact, as on September 27, 2022, we marked the company's 110th anniversary. I too am proud of 110 years of making the highest quality steel in the world in a safe and sustainable fashion. I want to thank and recognize the colleagues who have joined us here in person, the members of our ArcelorMittal executive team, our decarbonization project, including our program manager, Rob Marzetti, and our associate program manager, Tammy Uman, and employees representing various areas of our business from across the site. And we just toured with an incredible team at our world-class hot strip mill. Thank you. I also want to thank the many employees who've tuned in online. Day in and day out, you work to improve safety, quality, and cost to ensure that we may remain at the forefront of the steel industry for decades to come. Thank you so much for your expertise, for your passion, and for your efforts. The reality is we are all on the decarbonization team, every single one of us. And every one of us has a role to play in our very bright and very green future. This investment is built on a legacy of performance and is a beacon to our future. We have had Dofasco families with 5 generations of people working here. When I'm out in the mill, I meet 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th generation employees. When I met Mr. Mittal this morning, I let him know that we'll now meet 6th, 7th, and 8th generation employees because of this investment. So thank you very much. I'm truly humbled that this project will ensure that future generations will have the opportunity to continue to build the company and maintain our incredible position as a leader in Canadian manufacturing. This is indeed a generational project. Since the early 50s, variations of the stacks and equipment that have dominated the Hamilton skyline behind me, and now that's all about to change. The magnitude of how the landscape behind me and its impact on the people and the planet will change is actually staggering. And I look forward to the many updates along the way as this project develops further and we begin construction. Prime Minister Trudeau, I want to personally thank you for your leadership across the globe, here in Canada and here at ArcelorMittal. Without your leadership, this project would not come to fruition, so thank you. Minister Champagne and Minister Tassi, you've been great partners of mine and of ArcelorMittal Dofasco, so I want to thank you both. MPP Donna Skelly and Premier Ford's government, who without this project would not have seen the light of day. Mr. Mittal, I would like to thank you for your leadership globally in this steel industry. There's nothing to force us to start down this decarbonization journey. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do for people and planet, so I applaud you. I'd like to thank our CEO, Aditya Mittal, and our North American CEO, John Brett, for having the confidence in us here in Hamilton and providing extraordinary leadership. There's also a global decarbonization team at ArcelorMittal, and I want to acknowledge and thank Mark Varicki, the Chief Operating Officer of Flat Europe. Mark and I are co-chairs of the Global Decarbonization Steering Committee, and part of our success here will be hinged on the success of our European project. After 110 years, the company and its people have not just stood the test of time, but boldly stepped up to lead, and on many fronts and at many points in our history. Today marks another leap into the future with our partners, the Canadian government, the Government of Ontario, ArcelorMittal, and our nearly 5,000 employee partners, dressed in orange, who are absolute experts in developing, manufacturing, and delivering steel. Thank you so much. With that, I am pleased to hand it over to Mr. Lakshmi Mittal, our chairman of ArcelorMittal.
Good afternoon, everyone. Prime Minister Trudeau, Minister Champagne, Minister Tassi, Mr. Good, welcome to ArcelorMittal Dofasco. I'm absolutely thrilled we are here together for this truly groundbreaking day. First of all, I must say thank you. Thank you to Prime Minister Trudeau, to Minister Champagne, as well as all the relevant teams in the governments of Canada and Ontario for your invaluable support and commitment to make this happen. I also bring greetings from Adit Mittal, ArcelorMittal CEO, and I also want to thank Premier Ford. Both of them could not be here today. Tackling climate change and achieving net zero by 2050 is not an easy task. In fact, it is probably one of the toughest challenges humankind has set itself. Public-private partnership, therefore, fundamental. We only succeed by working together. I am delighted that in the governments of Canada and Ontario, we have found partners who share the same vision as we do. A vision for cleaner, greener, more sustainable, more prosperous future. Thank you also to Ron and the team at ArcelorMittal Dofasco, and indeed from the group more broadly who have worked so hard to reach this point. ArcelorMittal has a vision to lead the decarbonization of the steel industry. As I was saying to Prime Minister Trudeau during our walk, that we are very happy and proud that we are leading the world in decarbonization in the steel industry, and thank you so much, because we are the first company in Canada here. Steel is already the most recyclable material in the world. What is not perhaps so well known is that also it has one of the lowest carbon footprints of comparable materials. But because of the volumes of steel used in the world, nearly 2 billion tons, steel represents nearly 7% of the total carbon emissions. So it is absolutely critical that we decarbonize and achieve near zero. As a first step toward achieving net zero by 2050, we have a target to reduce emissions intensity across the group by 25% by 2030. We have announced several investment projects in support of this target, of which is most important is $1.8 billion investment here. But what stands this apart is it is the first time since we announced the target that we have reached the point where we can actually break ground for the construction of DRI-EF installation. That makes a very significant moment. I don't want to get too technical, but direct reduced electric arc furnace steel making is still what we call primary steel making, but without the blast furnace and therefore without coal. Replacing blast furnaces with the direct reduced iron and electric arc furnace is one of essentially two technology routes that can ultimately take some steel making to near zero. 30 years back, I started my career by acquiring a steel company in Trinidad in Caribbean, which has the direct reduced iron electric arc furnace steel making. So after 30 years, the world is coming back to the same process to get net carbon zero. Here in Hamilton, we will be building a new 2.5 million ton capacity direct reduced iron furnace and 2.4 million ton capacity electric arc furnace. But what is really important here is what we are taking away. We are taking away 3 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions. That is 60% of the steel plant's total CO2 emission today. And we don't plan to stop there. Our vision is this facility to be one of the first in the world to produce near zero steel. So the DRI furnace we will construct will be hydrogen ready, as we discussed during our previous meetings. That means as and when there is an abundant cost competitive supply of green hydrogen, we can switch over and further our journey to near zero. We are the first steel company in the world who has already experimented hydrogen in our plant in Montreal in our direct reduced iron. So we are ready. With this in mind, I welcome your government's hydrogen strategy. And we look forward to continue to work with the government to develop those hydrogen opportunity to be used in our processes. With today's events, we now move from planning stage to the action stage. The journey is significantly reduce our carbon emission now. ArcelorMittal Dofasco is often held up as a standout performer in the group. For many years, the plant has produced high-quality steel solutions efficiently and safely. As we mentioned, 60% of our steel goes to auto industry. And we are largest suppliers to all the electrical vehicles which are being produced now in Europe and America. And a big reason for that is the quality of the people. As Ron mentioned, I know you are passionate about what you do. And I've been struck by the excitement there is for this project. Our people are also critically important partners in the success of this project. Everyone has an important role to play. We must ensure that we do so safely. Construction projects bring new safety challenges, so the absolute priority must be on keeping people safe. I spent some time this morning with our project team, and this was one of the most important points I mentioned, that how do we do it safely? In conclusion, let me just say, we have a tremendous opportunity to demonstrate here in Hamilton how working in partnership with key shareholders, the steel industry can achieve near zero. I hope that many people around the world, particularly those who focus on the decarbonization of the hard-to-abate sectors, will read today's announcements about this event, especially my European colleagues, and recognize that this is a major milestone and take the time to understand how it has been reached. On a personal note, Prime Minister Trudeau, I know how hard you work every day to create well-paying jobs for Canadians, making their life more affordable, keeping Canada's communities safe, fighting climate change, and moving forward on reconciliation with indigenous peoples. I saw your passion this morning. I really admire and appreciate. Thank you again, everyone, and who made it possible.
Mr. Mittal, thank you for your comments, and thank you for your leadership and vision, a vision that will guide us on our path to net zero. Next, I'm pleased to introduce the Honorable Filomena Tassi. Je suis heureux de présenter la ministre responsable de l'Agence fédérale de développement économique pour le Sud de l'Ontario. Minister Tassi was born in Hamilton, and she's the daughter of a proud steelworker. She was a corporate lawyer for 6 years and then a high school chaplain in Hamilton for 20 years before her election as a member of Parliament in 2015. Since then, she has served as Minister of Procurement, Canada's first Minister of Seniors, and also Deputy Government Whip. Please welcome Minister Tassi to the podium.
Thanks so much, Tony. Good afternoon, everyone. Words can't describe how fantastic this is. My backdrop is the coil yard that I used to work as a summer student coil checking. And you know, to be surrounded by the workers here, Ron and Mr. Mittal, you both acknowledged your strength is your people. You're absolutely right. As a student, I was embraced, and this was my family. So words can't express how fantastic it is to be here, and I want to thank all of you for being present for this important historic moment and historic day for Hamilton. It is truly a transformational day. Today, we take a true step toward greener, cleaner, and a more prosperous Hamilton of the future. And I'm so happy that our Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, is in town today for this great event. And I want to begin by thanking the Prime Minister for coming to Hamilton on a regular basis. It has been under the leadership of the Prime Minister that Hamilton has benefited from billions of dollars of investment since forming government in 2015, and that is unprecedented. We know, Prime Minister, that you recognize the ambition of Hamilton as well as the talent and the potential. And so here we are today. With today's sod-turning ceremony here at ArcelorMittal Dofasco, the PM will kick off one of the biggest and most important investments in Canada's fight against climate change. This investment will significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, make Hamilton a leader in green steel production, and transform our city's skyline and air quality. I cannot underestimate the significance of this investment. Just imagine no more smokestacks. I do want to thank ArcelorMittal Dofasco for choosing Hamilton and Canada to make this significant step. We have worked very closely together over the past number of years to get where we are today. I want to thank you for your collaboration and your leadership on this transformational innovation. Prime Minister, your leadership on the importance of fighting climate change is strong and unwavering. We know that you have set it as one of our government's core priorities since taking office in 2015 and have set ambitious targets. Today, we continue to take real action. We celebrate your leadership, the partnership of AMD, as well as the innovation which will lead to the creation of good middle-class paying jobs and strong economic growth. Without further ado, I'm honored to pass the mic over to my friend and Hamilton's friend, the Right Honourable our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau.
Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you, Filomena, for everything you do for people here in Hamilton. The story that you represent of having worked here as a summer student and now being back here ensuring that future generations of summer students get the same opportunity to see what this family is like, what this community can build, is exciting. Big shout out to Chad, Lisa, François-Philippe, a team that delivers for this community and for Canadians. Want to recognize Ron and Lakshmi from Dofasco and ArcelorMittal, but I want to mostly recognize the workers here, all of you, without whom we wouldn't be here. And it's not just we wouldn't be here because we would be making this announcement. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for the extraordinary excellence that generations of Hamiltonians have put forward in making this plant and this industry world-class every step of the way. So when there is a look at where do we build the future of steelmaking, where do we know that we can create the strongest possible future globally, people turn not to a physical location, but to the people who work here as knowing that this is the best bet for transforming the industry for the better. So thank you. Without you, we wouldn't be here. But before I begin, I need to talk about another important step that we're taking in the face of horrific human rights abuses perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Minister Joly has announced new sanctions against 17 people and 3 entities that have participated in or enabled gross human rights violations, including against Iranian women, and who have spread disinformation to try and justify the Iranian regime's repression and persecution of its citizens. We will continue to implement sanctions in the weeks ahead, and this includes moving forward with the unprecedented step of listing the regime under IRPA, as we did for those responsible for Bosnian war crimes and the Rwandan genocide. Le Canada continue de défendre les droits des femmes, les droits de la personne et la primauté du droit dans le monde entier, et on ne reculera pas. But I've really got to say, it is so good to be back here at Dofasco. A few years ago, I was here meeting with workers, and we were all worried about the imposition of unnecessary tariffs, unjust measures that put at risk jobs and our economic opportunities. Well, together we worked really hard, we stood strong, we got those tariffs lifted so that plant could keep going strong. And that's what allows us to be here today with an announcement looking with incredible optimism and ambition towards the future, not just for this plant, but for the steel industry in Canada and around the world. For decades, the steel industry has been a key engine of growth of the Canadian economy. For generations, this plant has provided careers that workers and their families can be proud of. A number of folks I met who were second and third generation is great, but I look forward to decades from now, politicians coming, talking about fifth, sixth, seventh generation workers at this plant. And that's where we need to make sure we're going. Because for our future, there's no better example of clean Canadian innovation powering our way forward. On croit en l'innovation et au savoir-faire des travailleurs canadiens et de l'industrie canadienne. C'est pour ça qu'on leur apporte le soutien nécessaire. Just over a year ago, we announced a historic investment in the future of this plant. We invested $400 million to help Dofasco phase out coal-fired steelmaking and move to electric furnaces. And today, we're seeing how this project means real results. To begin with, we're creating as many as 2,500 good jobs on construction of the project, while, importantly, securing the future of workers here at the Hamilton plant. We're also helping Dofasco become the world's first major steel producer to move to this cleaner process. That's a huge competitive advantage in a world using steel in everything from electric vehicles to skyscrapers, and with increasing pressure by clients and consumers to make sure that that steel is as green as possible. And of course, while we're doing all that, we're also keeping our air clean here at home. This investment will help cut pollution equivalent to taking almost 1 million cars off the road. As we step back and we look at how this announcement fits into the bigger picture, we have to acknowledge that from the geopolitical challenges around the world of Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, coming out of the pandemic, having disrupted supply chains and contributed to inflation, rising costs of living, interest rate challenges, climate change itself causing more and more extreme weather events, from increasingly intense hurricanes like we just saw in Atlantic Canada, to wildfires, floods across the country, and displacement of peoples around the world. There is no question that we live in a time of anxiety, where people are worried about what their lives are going to look like, where their jobs are going to come from, what the world is going to look like in the coming years. That's why we see a certain number of political players and politicians out there trying to tell people that, no, we can keep things as they are. We can get back to the way things used to be. We can hunker down and return to some way things used to be and reassure people with that. I don't think that's the right idea. Because there is no question that the world is changing. The question is, how do we make sure that Canada benefits from that change? And more importantly, how do we make sure that Canadians drive that change? And that's exactly what we're celebrating here today. The fact that the work that we've been doing as a government, the work that you've been doing as a company, the work that Hamilton has been doing, it's great to see Mayor Eisenberger here, to push forward into an ambitious future, and mostly the work that all of you have been doing as workers, making sure that every day you think about doing things better for your job, for the company, but also better for the community, better for the environment, better for your kids' futures. That has all come together with the fact that right now, the first major steel company in the world making the switch towards electric, away from coal, it's happening right here in Hamilton. It's not happening in Europe. It's certainly not happening in China. Not even happening in Asia, in Japan or in South Korea, where there's lots of innovations going on. But this big decision, this big step, is being led right here by all of you Canadians, and by a company that has an understanding that Canada is a place that has a better idea about what the future looks like and how we're going to get there than just about any other place in the world. That's what this is. You cannot build a strong economy for the future if you don't understand that the world is changing, and fighting climate change and decarbonizing needs to be a part of it. And not only is it the responsible thing to do, it's also the smart, competitive thing to do. The demand for green steel, the demand for cleaner technological solutions is increasing massively around the world, faster than even the most innovative companies can keep up with. And that's why this project, and accelerating this project as much as possible, is going to ensure that Hamilton and Canada stay at the forefront of the global markets. Vous savez, plus tôt cette semaine, j'ai visité Rio Tinto au Québec pour annoncer un investissement majeur dans la production de minéraux critiques ici au Canada. Aujourd'hui, on est ici pour voir les effets positifs du soutien à l'acier propre canadien. Lorsqu'on appuie les travailleurs et l'industrie canadienne, notre avenir est prometteur. So pay no heed to those politicians who still think there's a choice to be made between good middle-class jobs and a cleaner environment. We are proving every day, you are proving every day, that that's no longer the case. Because you look here, and what do we see, what we're building? Good jobs and lifelong careers, a strong, resilient local economy and Canadian economy, and cleaner air for generations to come. That's why this announcement is so exciting. That's why the coming years are so exciting. As we know that Canada can lead the way into a stronger and cleaner future for everyone. Alors sur ce, je suis très content de céder la parole à une personne qui travaille sans relâche pour favoriser une économie propre du Canada. Au Canada, I want to welcome a man who is tireless on fighting to draw in investments and opportunities to ensure good Canadian jobs in a changing economy for generations to come. My friend and yours, François-Philippe Champagne.
It feels good to be back, Prime Minister. You put the energy in the house, I must say, wow. And look at the smile around. Everyone is excited. Bonjour tout le monde. Évidemment, c'est un grand plaisir d'être de retour. Monsieur le Premier ministre, toujours un plaisir d'être ensemble pour bâtir une économie qui fonctionne pour tous, mais I want to say to everyone, I mean, I don't need to say it, you feel it. I mean, there's still energy in the air. You saw, Mr. Mittal, the passion, the vision of the Prime Minister to make sure that Canada will be the leader in producing green steel in the world. And that comes from leadership at the top. And I just want to acknowledge, Prime Minister, so good to be with you this morning, so good to see the passion, because without you, I can assure everyone in this room we would not be here today, because the leadership starts at the top, and it starts with the Prime Minister of Canada. So, Prime Minister, you make my job easy. Make my job easy with that. But more than that, and I think many of you, and I see familiar faces, you know, we've been at the plant, we've been talking to you, and you said it, Prime Minister, and I think Mr. Mittal, the first thank you I want to say is the more than 4,000 workers that are here, the people with the orange suit, I would say, because it's thanks to your hard work, expertise and know-how, and we can attract historic investment like this today. I can assure you in all my discussion with the senior leadership at Mittal, it always comes back to people. So without each and every one of you, we would not be here today, and I want to give you a big round of applause. I want every Canadian to know that it starts with the worker, it starts with the talent, it starts with you, and the Prime Minister said it for decades. You have shown the world that the best steel is coming from Canada, and with the investment we see today, we'll make sure that this is true for generations to come. Je veux saluer évidemment ma collègue Filomena Tassi, une collègue qui est appréciée de tous, une voix forte évidemment pour la région d'Hamilton. And I can assure you, she's not only a strong voice, but God, she was on my back to make sure that this would happen. So Minister Tassi, thank you for your leadership, because every time she would see me, she'd say, where are we with the project? And here we are to celebrate it. So Filomena, I just want to say thank you. You keep me on our toes, and that's the good thing. So we can be here today. I want to acknowledge Lisa and Chad, which are colleagues from the House of Commons. You've been there at every step of the way, and without you, again, we would not be there. Mr. Mittal, I wanted to spend a moment talking about you. And I want to speak about Adit, which has been an amazing partner. I must tell to every Canadian that the moment that we started talking, you embraced the vision. You embraced the vision of having the greenest steel being made in Canada. You've shown extreme leadership at a time where you had a choice. And I was in the first discussion. You had a choice. You choose Canada for your first significant investment in green steel. And I must say to all Canadians and all the workers who are assembled today, you're a great friend of Canada. So to you and Adit, which I'm sure is watching at home in London, because I texted him this morning and he knows at what time, I just want to say thank you, sir, because you believe in Canada, you believe in the workers, and you believe that we can have a better future for the climate. So thank you, sir, for your leadership. I would say, you know, people sometimes wonder the power of one. Well, I can tell you you're a good example that people like you can change the world, and you've been with us and the Prime Minister on that. Ron, where are you, Ron? Hey, here you are. Listen, I must tell you the same thing. Without you, all the folks who are here, it starts with Ron, who has been making sure that every step of the way we would deliver for you, and I don't think that there could be a greater leader for the workers here, and I can tell you, you've sensed it. Everyone we met this morning, Prime Minister, and everyone who was in the room, there was a sense of purpose and passion, and it starts with you, Ron, and I can thank you for your leadership. You were good at texting me as well to make sure we would get there, so I have to acknowledge that. You're an amazing leader, and I want to say, obviously, to the Deputy Speaker, thank you for being with us. I know Vic Fideli would have liked to be, but I know he's in Europe, so it's good to be with you. And Mayor, what I'm going to say, Mayor Fred, every time we come, it's for good news. So I'm sure you're going to welcome us again, because every time we come to see you, my friend, it's always about good news in Hamilton. Donc, évidemment, je vous disais, c'est un grand plaisir de retour ici à Hamilton, mais cette fois-ci, évidemment, accompagné du Premier ministre et de ma collègue, la ministre Tassi, pour la toute première pelletée de terre de ce projet qui fera du Canada un leader dans la production de l'acier vert. On dit souvent qu'Hamilton rime avec acier. Je pense qu'on peut maintenant dire qu'Hamilton va rimer dorénavant aussi avec avenir, avec innovation et avec technologie verte. Today represents a major step on our way to a net zero future. I mean, you've heard it many times, but it's worth focusing on that. As I often say, while climate change is our greatest existential threat, and we've seen, and the Prime Minister said it, we saw Fiona recently and our friends in Atlantic Canada which have been hit, but it also offers boundless opportunities to make the change that we need to be a leader. And I think this is about, if there's a word this morning, it's about talent, it's about worker, it's about leadership. And this morning is a great example, but only if we develop the technologies to help the world make the green transition a reality. There's a lot of people talking out there, but the difference here, we've been acting. And I can think of a better example of that transition than this project we're celebrating here in Hamilton, the project of ArcelorMittal. And I think we should all feel a piece of ownership, of pride in that, that it's easy to talk about climate change, but here we're making it happen. This project, as the Prime Minister said before, is projected to reduce emission by 3 million tons per year. That's 60% of the company's emission. Ladies and gentlemen, this is big. As the Prime Minister, it's almost like taking 1 million cars out of the road, and this is happening in our community. These are the type of transformational investments that our government is ready to make, and I want again to say thank you, Prime Minister. Like I said, you make my job easy because leadership starts at the top, and we're going to continue with energy to make these investments. These are the type of investments that show we are backing our words with actions. These are the type of investment that will secure jobs for decades to come, but at the same time will have a positive impact on our environment for decades to come. Le climat ne connaît pas les grands discours et les grandes intentions. Le climat connaît les gestes et les actions. Aujourd'hui, il marque une étape concrète dans l'action vers une économie plus verte, chez nous ici à Hamilton, en Ontario, et bien évidemment au pays. Plus verte, mais aussi plus compétitive, plus productive, plus attrayante pour les clients d'ArcelorMittal à travers le monde. And Mr. Mittal, I want to assure you, the Prime Minister and I and the whole team, we're going to keep being on your marketing team. Because I must tell you, I've been talking about you everywhere I've been, you know, talking about we're going to be doing green steel in Canada and you better buy it. And we talk about the OEM and you can count on us because the workers deserve. We're going to be at the forefront of your marketing team. Le Canada peut et doit devenir le fournisseur éco-responsable de choix pour le monde. So my friends, I would say let's seize the moment. Let's be ambitious and let's make sure to make sure that the greenest steel in the world is going to be produced right here in Hamilton. Thank you all for being here. And with that, I will turn over to you, to our friend Tony, which is going to take that. Merci tout le monde.
Feel the energy. Thank you, Prime Minister, Minister Champagne, and Minister Tassi. You know, as all of you have mentioned, today's another significant milestone for Canada and a significant milestone in our journey towards becoming carbon neutral, a goal that we can only accomplish with collaboration, partnership, and perseverance. So thank you very much for being with us on this journey. So I now want to acknowledge the significant support of the Government of Ontario and would like to introduce Member of Provincial Parliament, Donna Skelly. Donna represents the Flamborough Glanbrook riding and is, as we've heard, Deputy Speaker of the Ontario Legislature. Donna was also a former City of Hamilton councillor and a broadcast journalist. So please welcome Donna Skelly.
Thank you, Tony, Prime Minister, Mr. Mittal. As a resident of Hamilton, a person who can actually call Hamilton home, I'll tell you I am so proud, so honored to be here today for a groundbreaking ceremony on a project that will not only transform how steel is made here at ArcelorMittal Dofasco, but also position Hamilton and position the province of Ontario as global leaders in green steel, and that is unbelievable. I didn't think I'd ever see something like this in my lifetime, and I've lived many, many years, but I am so proud that we are here with this announcement today. The Premier was here within, I'd say, less than a year ago, and we toured the facility, and of course made the announcement that the province of Ontario, along with our federal counterparts, was going to be contributing $400 million towards this project, a project that we know will really, really help all sectors of many sectors of the economy here in Ontario, and of course, as you've heard earlier, right across the country. The Premier couldn't make it here today, but he did send greetings and this message. Today is another example that here in Ontario, we have everything we need to be a global leader in the manufacturing of clean steel, to build made-in-Ontario cars, electric vehicles, and battery technologies. There is no better place for companies to invest, and I want to send my thanks to ArcelorMittal Dofasco for this tremendous vote of confidence in Ontario and our workers. Hamilton has deep roots as a steel town, and the women and men of this city will continue that proud tradition for decades to come. The Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donna, and please extend our thanks to the Premier and to Minister Fedeli. The collaboration, I think the way both levels of government worked collaboratively on this project, I think is an example, and I think, Mr. Mittal, this is an example for the European countries to pay attention to, so as you said in your comments. So at this time, I'd like to invite our speakers to join with other participants in the groundbreaking ceremony. You'll be directed by my colleague here, Marie and Richard. Our media colleagues are invited to come forward as we move here to the groundbreaking side. I'd also say that this will conclude our event for today, and I also want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate with us. So now over to the sod turning, so give us a second, and we'll get ourselves organized.